I will not be pushed, filed, stamped, indexed, briefed, debriefed, or numbered. My life is my own.
The morning starts badly, and the whole day goes badly when you get too little sleep too often. And even after class is over, you keep on paying the penalty for bad sleeping habits. You don't have much fun when you're tired and low in energy. Lack of sleep makes it hard for you to do your best. You just can't seem to get into the game and have fun the way the other fellas do.
What's up there, my friends? How's it going today? How do I even start this video? You know, I came out here and sat down and thought, I'm going to make a video. I thought, no, it's just a waste of time. Oh, I want to make a video. No, it's a waste of time. I better get something else done. And really making the video isn't the issue. It's just what my mind's been going through lately, and I thought that I would share it in hopes that maybe somebody out there who's suffering a similar fate can, I don't know, gain a little bit of compassion and understanding for each other and our situations. In other words, as a YouTuber or someone who makes videos about life, you know, obviously sometimes I'll have a complaint to make. Sometimes I'll hear something that is so preposterous or absurd that's going on in the world or in my own country or even in my neighborhood, or something that happens to me, and I just have to share it. And by the time I get around to actually making a video or thinking about doing it, I say, no, I'm not a complainer. You know, there's enough problems in this world. We all suffer enough bullshit in our own personal lives to not have to listen to everyone else's personal bullshit too, you know? And playing the victim is a role that a lot of people don't even realize that they are doing, especially if you've lived a pretty simple or sheltered life, and then all of a sudden you run into one problem in your life where you have to actually do something for yourself, and all of a sudden it's, oh my God, what am I going to do? Problems that other people have had their entire lives. But the little things that do happen to us, they really do matter, regardless of how insignificant they may seem to others. Lately I've been going through some confusion, trying to figure out where I want to go with, trying to figure out what's wrong exactly in the back of my mind. And I've discussed this with people in the past. I've read a lot of, you know, writings, blogs, books, lectures, you know, you name it, where people have talked about this exact same thing, that they're just not sure which path to take. They don't know if they're doing, you know, the right thing for themselves. And let me kind of back up here. I made a video and I talked about wasting time the other day. And sometimes I feel like I'm wasting time, right? Well, I just thought of this comparison, you know. Imagine a guy who loves to draw or paint, and he spends all his time painting and drawing. If he's an artist and he makes money off of his art, or, you know, if that's just what he does, money or not, but unfortunately money is what makes your, you know, what puts food on the table. If the artist can successfully paint all day and draw all day and make a living off of it and enjoy what he does, that's success, right? From the mindset of the person who's doing the art, let's say that you're just starting out and you're not getting paid for what you're doing. Let's say you're an early author and you're just writing your first book, or you're just creating some of your first inventions, creations, whatever they might be. And you're sitting here thinking, well, I'm taking a risk. You know, this might turn into nothing, and I'd be wasting all this time, you know, trying to promote something or build something that didn't work out. And because of this, a lot of people are afraid of trying their own thing, to start their own business, or to, you know, do something outside of the fold, outside of the norm. And I know this all too well because I've tried it several different times. I'm an entrepreneur in the sense that I like to work for myself, and I like to try to you know, experience new endeavors, and my mind's always in flux. But it can lead to somewhat of an anxiety or a depression if you let it go for too long. And that's kind of what I wanted to address. It's interesting because one morning I'll wake up and I'll put on some music. And this is the one that I wanted to tell people this. It's something that I've wanted to mention for a long time. If you ever wake up, you do your usual morning routine, whatever it might be. Look at your phone, watch the news, make your coffee, whatever you do in the morning. If you change up your routine a little bit with some music, it can be like a night and day difference. Even if it doesn't, I don't feel like listening to music. if I just put on a song, an old classic rock tune or something, then all of a sudden I'll be feeling good and I'll be wanting to get things done. So why is it so hard for us to just motivate and do the things that we know we need to do? And this is, of course, not for everyone. Some people are motivated and they do everything as soon as it comes to mind, but not me. So, for example, my cars have needed some work for a long time, and my oldest son, he's been wanting to work on his own car, so he watched some YouTube videos, and then he decided to change his own oil and do his own radiator, and in that, he inspired me to go out and want to do the school bus, and he did the other cars, so we ended up getting all our oils changed. Well, I was so lazy at this point. It's been so long since I've done it. I said, oh, I'll just pay $30, take it in the shop, and have it done. But it's not really about the money. It's about the time that it takes to do it, the mess that it makes. But when you're inspired by someone who's, I don't know, I'm trying to use this as a metaphor. When you're around people who are inspiring, then you can be inspired and you can feel more motivated. And vice versa, that can work the opposite direction. You know, if we're around people who aren't motivated, then it can demotivate us too. While I was out there, I decided, well, I'm just going to change the oil in the school bus because I don't want to take it in the shop. So I did so. I made a video, and I thought, I'm going to make a video of the oil change process. And I thought, how stupid, what a waste of time. There's a million oil change tutorials, and I thought, well, I'll just make it fun, just for the hell of it. So I filmed the beginning of the process, set the camera up, showed the oil filter, the drain pan, and the bolt. And I took my little camera right here, it's a little $900 Sony camcorder, put a little mini tripod on it, and I set it a couple feet away on the other side of me. Turns out that this drain bolt is right over the axle of the school bus, and the axle is off balance. So, people probably already know where this story is going. I took the oil pan, the drain pan, I set it up on the axle, removed the bolt, and it drained out completely, and it was almost totally done. And in the video, I said, oh, better be careful. I was like, oops, a little bit of spillage. I don't want to mess this up. And 1 second later, you hear this splash as 5 quarts of hot, dirty motor oil spill out of the thing, off the axle, hit the ground, and completely cover me and my camera. So this camera right here that I just got recently was completely covered in oil. And in the video, you see the splash come up and then just drench it, and then it just drips down the lens. I thought maybe I'll upload it to YouTube sometime, just to show people, because it was just so funny. I thought maybe I'll still make a tutorial. But I spent a half an hour scrubbing every little tiny crack and crevice out of this thing and trying to get all the oil out of it. And thank God the viscosity of oil keeps it out of the inner components. But the point was, it was one of those times I was describing in the beginning where something just frustrates you and you can let it ruin your day. It's like if you wake up in the morning and you say, oh man, my whole day is going to be shit because I woke up late. Or a person says, I had a bad day. I'm like, well, how did that happen? Oh, I woke up late, and then I was in a hurry, I spilled my coffee, then I was late for work, I got in trouble. All of that was based on just being late. So in other words, identifying this key root component that sets us on this depression, anxiety, having a bad day, whatever it might be. I don't believe in bad days. I believe in bad moments. So when I spilled that oil, I said, oh shit. And that was it. On the camera, you can't hear anything else. You just hear me running around scattered, grabbing stuff. And because I remember at the moment it happened, I'm covered in oil, my camera's covered in oil. It's one of those tests. Are you going to scream and rant and pound your fists and get all mad about it? Or are you going to calmly and collectively deal with the problem? And that's what I've been trying to train myself to do over the years. It was about 15 years ago, my brother actually gave me a audio book that he'd read or listened to. It was called Deep Survival. I cannot recall the author at this point, but he was an ex-military pilot, I believe, and he wrote a book about how to deal with stressful situations and anxiety, especially ones when they come out of the blue like that. Not panicking. Some of the stories in there talked about people who had run out of oxygen, while they were diving, for example, and inhaled water and died just out of instinct, not being able to control themselves and make it to the surface. And he explained how the body has these natural reactions to situations. And all the while, there's neurochemistry involved, to the point where, we're all well aware of our neurochemicals, dopamine, serotonin, acetylcholine, epinephrine or adrenaline. And adrenaline is something that, it's the fight or flight syndrome. If we can learn to control that a little better, then we don't get so angry about things. Everybody knows the guy who messes something up and he flies off the handle and gets mad at everybody. I try really hard not to be that guy. Everyone in my family knows that if I hurt myself or I break something or anything, just don't talk to me. I just don't say a word. The kids know, just don't say a word. It's because that's how I deal with my shit. I don't want to hear, are you okay? Are you okay? It's like, if I need help, I'll let you know. Just back off. I can't help how I react when I get hurt or something, spill 5 quarts of oil on myself. But we overcome it. That's what I'm saying. We let these things go. We move forward. And we have to. We have to. We absolutely have to. Otherwise, we become these pathetic, whiny victims that you hear about, who just want to complain about every little thing, not just in their lives, but in everyone else's life, or in the world, and everything is a big problem to them. And, oh my God, how can we exist in such garbage? And, oh, I'm so disgusted by pollution and by politics and all these things. These are things that we all feel. We're all disgusted by a lot of things, but you have to let it go. You have to look at it through a different lens. Well, I should be careful with my wording. You don't have to do anything. You can do whatever the fuck you want. I would urge people to look at things through a different lens. Because, as we get older, time goes by really fast. I've heard that from every older person that you've ever met. Anyone who's older than you. Like, oh yeah, it'll go faster. And you're like, yeah, I know, I've heard it before. But, say the last 10 years. My son, my 10-year-old, he'll turn 10 this August. And it really gives you a time point, a time stamp in your life when you have kids. My oldest son's 25, or will be this year, I believe. He's, I think he's either 24 or 25. It's really hard to keep track. Yeah, he'll be 25 this year. And thinking about when I met my wife and thinking about how long, that we've been together and all the things that we've been through and all the bullshit, all the hard times that we went through, losing our house that we were staying in, our farmhouse, because somebody sold the land, and then having to move into a motel with our kids and our pets, and it was nightmarish. But all these things pass. And so what I'm saying here is, all the bad shit that's happened to you in your life, whatever it might be, however horrible or maybe just trivial, depending on how you view it, you just got to let it go. We really should just let go of the past. We can't completely let go. But what I mean is, don't base who you are on what's happened to you. We shouldn't use it as an excuse to say, well, I've had a hard life, so, don't pick on me, or play the victim because of our roles. We've all suffered in our lives. And I'd say, I'm sure there are a few people would say, well, they've never suffered. For example, this person was born with a silver spoon in their mouth, and what about the lucky rich fucks who are born into wealth and have billions of dollars at their disposal and basically buy their way through life? I say, well, what about them? Comparing ourselves to other people is the most surefire way to become depressed and anxious. I truly mean that. And it's because we all do it. We all compare ourselves to other people. What does this guy have going for him? Or how did he get that? And this is why people talk about not coveting thy neighbor's goods, or to not be jealous of other people. It's not, envy and jealousy. There's nothing wrong with that as long as it motivates you to want to have the same things and do better. Where it's a problem is where a person says, well, I can't have that, so I'm just going to take yours. Or because of the fact that others have more than me, I'm going to make their lives miserable. Or I'm not going to partake in this society or this family or whatever it might be. I don't know. Everyone suffers. And I guess maybe I point the finger a little bit at people who play the victim, just because I get really tired of hearing about these pathetic little small problems that people think they're the only ones that suffer. In other words, there's nothing wrong with being sad about something in your life, or saying, man, I've really had an issue with this. But thinking you're the only one is where it's like, everybody puts on their plastic smile once in a while. I used to say, well, I'd never do that. I'm always honest with my emotions. But you have to. You have to smile even when you don't want to sometimes. Not always just to keep a job or to impress other people, but because others don't deserve to see your frown and whining. If you come into a group and you're feeling a certain way, sure, you can play the victim, bring everybody down with you. But wouldn't it be better to put on a smile, even if it is plastic, and hopefully over a few minutes that smile becomes real? And I truly mean that. It's okay to wallow in our misery for a little bit and then let it go. So, this has been kind of a ramble, of course. I've got a lot on my mind, but I've been thinking a lot about change lately. You know, I don't have any income really except my herb business, which trying to locate and deal with all the quality products and being a merchant, honestly, is really not my thing. You know, I'm an artist. To kind of come full circle back to the beginning, my natural tendency is to create things, not just painting or drawing, but I like to edit movies. I like to build something out of sand or bricks or dirt. Like, how do I turn my desire to wake up and just go create things into income? And that's where I'm stuck personally. I know ways to make money, and I know businesses I could start, and I do have certain skills and things, but how do I turn that into something that I love doing and something that'll make me money? And that's really the main issue. People don't want to talk about the money issue. But when you're broke, you have to. You have no choice. You know, I have young kids, and I want to be able to give them a somewhat decent life, but also take the burden off of my wife. And, you know, that's the thing about families. You know, even if you're doing all right, the idea is to make each other comfortable as much as possible, help each other out. Our family is our first line of defense against the rest of the world. You know, they're the only ones that'll hopefully stand by us. And so that's another story altogether. I know a lot of people live in miserable family situations and don't love their husbands or wives, or the kids don't like the parents, or vice versa. And some people just are not meant to be parents, or thought they were and chose not to. And then there's the people who say, I never want to be a parent. They end up having kids and being the most wonderful parents ever. But that ultimately comes down to subjectivity, like everything else. What is a good parent? The one that spanks his kid when he's bad, or the one that carefully explains things to him? How do we know? You know, how do humans punish each other properly? Do we send people to prison, or do we execute them if they execute someone else? There are a lot of issues to deal with, and it's easy to just get overwhelmed and just want to shut it all out and say, I have to live my own life, kind of abandon the bullshit, abandon the politics. So, to leave on any note here, it would be to say, if we're frustrated inside, it's easy to start blaming the world for our frustrations. It's easy to point a finger at the Illuminati, the government, you know, some other country as being the problems. And in reality, all of our problems are internal, almost all of them. I mean, we can have financial issues that can be dealt with societally, but when it comes down to the individual, often we should look within and say, if I'm frustrated about something in the world that's not affecting me directly, perhaps I am just projecting my own frustrations about myself onto the world. And I've seen this a lot in the conspiracy realm. And I'm not going to harp on any conspiracy theorists, because there are a lot of true conspiracies out there and a lot of people exposing bullcrap. But there's also a lot of people who, you know, fall into the apophenia and the pareidolia, you know, which are both basically seeing patterns that don't exist, or seeing faces where they don't exist, seeing connections that may not have anything to do with one another because of all the patterns that we see. The more disturbed we are in our personal lives, sometimes we can get a little neurotic and start seeing these patterns and trying to find an answer. We're always seeking reasons for the way we feel. And the best way to discover those are to sit silently and to take the time to ponder it. It's not a waste of time to think. And even if your art or whatever you're doing now isn't paying off, if you stick with it and it's your true passion, hopefully in the long run, it will work for you. And I guess maybe I'm telling that to myself too. But it also takes a degree of motivation and effort, and sometimes those are hard to find. One last note I was actually going to mention. You know, people ask me sometimes, well, hey, when I first started taking kratom, for example, it would get me motivated. But now I'm not motivated anymore. And what I've tried to explain is kratom doesn't motivate you. No drugs motivate someone. People take amphetamines and just sit on the couch. It's about using I believe it has to do with the mood. The improvement of mood allows us to be more motivated. I'm not going to try to explain the neurochemistry because I don't understand it all. But it's up to us, is what I'm saying, to change our mood, to change the way that we see things. You can flip a switch and all of a sudden, you know, take a walk, whatever it might be. So I'm making this maybe to tell myself these things too, you know, to say, Carpo, get your shit together and get going, because life is short and I want to make the most of it, but I also have to make a living, you know. I can't just go out and travel and make art and make videos for my whole life. I mean, sure, if I could sit and do this and get paid for it, that'd be great, but I don't see any way to do that at this point. Maybe I could do speeches, but then I'd have to like go out and be a speaker about a specific subject. I really don't know. I really don't know. I kind of look down on myself because that's the self-esteem issue we all have. But it's like, who is this guy? Who are you? Just making videos talking about bullshit? Who are you? You're not an authority on anything. There's a term for that. It's called the imposter syndrome. And the imposter syndrome is something that most people have when they get to somewhere they never thought that, or whether it's a job position or people listening to them, like on my YouTube channel. I'm like, well, wait, I don't deserve people listening to me. What have I done to earn this? And imposter syndrome says that you're not worthy or you're not one of them, and we're all one of them. We're all equally capable for the most part, once we find what works within. So, long video. I'll leave it there. It's been about 21 minutes here, so hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope you find your truth within, whatever it might be. I'm still trying to find mine. Maybe one day it'll just come to me in a flash. I fucking sure hope so. Until then, I'll just continue to wonder and spill oil on my new cameras and make a mess out of little things in life. Be well. Okay, I'm going to set this here. Whoops. Okay, that was a tiny bit of spillage. What a tricky endeavor. Damn it.